What's up, gang? And welcome back to another episode of Principles, a practical fat loss forever system. We are in phase 1, or phase 0, chapter 1, prevent failure. And principle number 1 in this chapter is understand why and how people fail. If you understand why people fail, you can build a strategy to do things differently so that you don't commit the same things that cause other people to fail. And if you understand how and why people fail, you can put in systems and safety nets to help you navigate around and rebound from when these things inevitably pop up into your life, because all of us are going to get tripped up by something, somehow, some way, and we're all going to commit the same mistakes that other people make at some point. If we understand what they are and we know what to look for and we can prepare ourselves for when they inevitably hit us, we increase the probability that we're going to be able to respond, do well, and stay in the game longer. And the longer we can stay in the game and we feel like we're doing well and in control, the higher the probability of us getting to our goal and staying there. We want to stay in the game and in control for as long as possible, and we can't do that if we cannot see what could end up tripping us up. And if we have a very clear vision of what all of those things are, we are prepared to handle them. So, the number one reason why people fail when trying to lose weight and keep it off over the long term is they have unrealistic expectations. And I'm not talking about the obvious unrealistic expectations. Like when we set a goal, we're trying to lose 10 pounds really quickly before we go on vacation. And then we say out loud, yeah, I knew it was unrealistic, but deep down we really believed that we could willpower our way through it if we just buckled down and were consistent enough. Those aren't the kind of unrealistic expectations that I'm talking about. I'm also not talking about the unrealistic expectations that people run into when they say things like, well, I thought it was realistic. They set themselves with a very small goal that they want to accomplish and then they fail. And then we say it was unrealistic expectations. They're like, but I thought it was unrealistic, or that I thought it was realistic. But right here, what we're talking about is when we don't have a clear picture of everything that's involved and we have expectations about executing and relationship to the outcome where we cannot see all of the variables and how they impact each other clearly. So we don't realize that these expectations are unrealistic, and that's why they actually trip us up and cause us problems. So we're going to look at John and Mike, just like I had talked about in episode 1. We're going to recap John real fast. John was a man in his 50s, roughly 300 pounds, and he had a very clear, smart goal. John wanted to lose 50 pounds before his son's graduation, which was roughly 26 weeks out, about 6 months in advance. He was going to lose 50 pounds before that big event, feel healthy, look healthy for all of the summer and all of his graduation and all of the celebration, and impress all of the family and friends when they showed up for it. John was a father, a husband, and he was a working man that had a management and sales job. So he was in meetings, meeting with people all the time, driving around, sitting and eating for those meetings. So he lived mostly a sedentary life. John had a very clear plan to accomplish his very smart goal. John was going to work out 6 days per week, 5 days in the morning before work, and then on Saturdays, the 6th day, he would meet me there in the early morning to get an additional workout, do our weekly thing. If he couldn't wake up and do it first thing in the morning, he blocked off time to do it in the evening. John was the boss. He was in control of his schedule. He could do that. John was also going to meal prep all of his meals every single weekend, eat just protein and veggies, not eat after 7 p.m., cut out all alcohol for the entire 6 months leading up in order to get that weight off. His workouts were going to consist of some cardio and some weight training. He had it all. John had been there before and done this. He had used this plan to lose a bunch of weight in the past. He had lost weight multiple times, so he knew what to do. He knew he was capable of doing it. All of the people in the gym, the people that knew him, his partners, the other trainers, other coaches, everybody gave him their full support. They said this was an awesome plan. If John does this, it's going to rock it. He's going to get super lean and super shredded. And if you look at it on paper, of course, cutting out all bad carbs, eating just protein and veggies, don't eat late at night, don't drink alcohol, do cardio in the morning and weight training in the evening and work out every day. That's the perfect plan for anybody that's able to actually do it and execute it. Everybody at the time, this is like 2009, 2010 maybe, and everybody is just like, yeah, John, this is going to be the best plan ever. You're going to crush it. was the only one at the time that was saying, John, I think we need to think about this. We're not getting a clear picture here. Why were John's expectations unrealistic? We're going to break down each one. And in this first episode, we're going to talk about John's unrealistic expectation of consistency with workouts. Okay, so before John actually started with his SMART goal and his plan, he was inconsistent with his workouts to begin with. John would show up maybe once a week, sometimes twice per week to actually do his workouts. Otherwise, he had to do sales meetings and business meetings in the evenings after work hours to do sales, to meet with customers, to build his team, to handle issues, because remember, he was the boss. Or other times he had his kids in sports and he would go do those things. Or sometimes he just wouldn't show up to the gym because life happens and you want to do other things. So John going from once or twice per week all the way up to 6 days per week every single day is a pretty big leap. And it's a big leap without any evidence to show that he would actually be able to execute it. John's stance was that he had done it in the past. He knew he could do it. Since he was in control of his schedule, he could definitely do it again. My caution here was that life was different now than it was all those years ago when he was able to do it. He should consider other factors. The other problem here that we had was, besides him being inconsistent before he started this SMART goal, was that John was a self-proclaimed all or nothing person. John would tell you, I'm an all or nothing person. When I fully commit to something, nothing can stop me and I can do great. But if I can't fully commit, I won't do it at all. I think we all know at least a couple of all or nothing people, right? When you're an all or nothing person and you're all in trying to execute this entire plan, whatever that happens to be, to your fullest capacity, and you can't fully do it, you can't be all in when you want to be all in, it triggers what we call feedback loop from hell. So for John, when he's all in, he's got this 6 day per week plan. He's got all the diets. He's got all the everything that he's going to hit. The first time he misses a workout, he feels bad. He feels guilty. If he doesn't execute his plan perfectly because he's an all or nothing kind of person, he feels like a failure when he can't do it. So something pops up and he can't show up and do a workout tonight. He feels like a failure for not doing that workout. He feels like he's failing his plan because he wasn't able to do the workout. And since he's failing his plan, he feels like a failure. And since he feels like a failure, he doesn't want to show up and do it. So then he skips the next workout, and that makes him feel like he's failing his plan. And since he's failing his plan, he feels like a failure. And because he feels like a failure, he's going to fail his plan. And that feedback loop goes on and on and on and deeper and deeper and deeper because he's an all or nothing kind of person. If he can't be all in, he hates it and he feels guilty about what he's doing. So he doesn't want to do it at all because he doesn't want to actually have to face that failure. Reality is there's no such thing as an all or nothing kind of person because you cannot ever be an all person, especially when we're talking about health and fitness. You're never going to encounter a season of your life where you have 26 weeks or 12 weeks where life's not going to pop up and interrupt you in some capacity that you would have all that time blocked off and you could just focus entirely on your diet and your exercise with no interruptions, no travel, no work, no family, no emergencies, nothing at all. It doesn't exist. Life's always going to happen. You're always going to get busy. Things are always going to pop up. So you can't be an all-in person. You have to be a flexible person. And if you're a self-proclaimed all or nothing person, since an all-in person doesn't exist, you're just a nothing person because every single time you try to do something, something's going to interrupt it. And since you can't be all in, you go to nothing, you're a nothing person. And that is what one of the things that happened with John over and over and over again was that he couldn't be all in, so he went to be a nothing person because of that feedback loop from hell. He felt terrible. He felt guilty when he couldn't execute his all-in plan. And since he felt like a failure, he didn't want to execute his plan and be a failure, so he just stopped altogether. There's no such thing as an all or nothing. But John was the boss, so why didn't John make it a priority to show up and do all of his workouts? Because he could have, right? He could have blocked that time off. What could possibly pop up if John's the boss and John's the dad and John makes all the decisions? What prevented him from actually showing up and doing the things? Well, the problem with John and his priorities is that he didn't make the result, the outcome, the priority. He made the plan the priority. So for John, the priority was showing up 6 days per week, 5 or 6 days per week. It wasn't losing the weight and feeling better. For John, the priority was sticking to the diet, not did he look better and feel better and lose weight. That's a mix-up here, especially for somebody that has this head down, fully committed to an all or nothing person to the plan. The priority becomes the plan. And it's very easy for you to not keep the plan as the priority over other things that actually pop up, things that are more important than the execution of a plan. The outcome should always be more important than the plan. And if you mix up what's the priority, the outcome or the effort, you're going to screw up. And that's really what John did, because when things popped up that would push him in one way or the other, it's easy to explain away showing up to the gym 6 days per week or being ultra strict on your diet because it's just a plan, right? There's no substance to showing up every day. There's only substance to the outcome. There's substance to being lighter and feeling healthier and feeling better. But the checking of the boxes doesn't actually hold you. So John had the wrong priority. He was focused on the plan and the execution of the plan, and whether or not he was a success or a failure was based on whether or not he was executing the plan. It's a very short-term perspective instead of picking his head up and looking over the long term. So what exactly happened with John and his all or nothing and his priorities here? And here's the story. I remember when he missed his first workout. It was going to be a Wednesday night workout. He was going to work out right after work, and about an hour before he was supposed to be there, he sent me a text and said he couldn't make it because he had a work event that night, and that so he wasn't going to be there to work out. He texted me an hour beforehand. Well, I found out later that he had known about this event for months. This event was a big event. It was a big work event with his team and with customers. There was a DJ, there was food, there was drinks, there was formal dress. It was kind of a big deal, so it wasn't a surprise. John didn't want to have to make the decision or consciously face the fact that he was breaking his plan to go to this event because he wanted to keep it as a priority. That dissonance wrote itself out, but he couldn't actually skip the event or didn't want to skip the event to go to the gym. And of course, rightfully so, he shouldn't have skipped the event. He would have rather gone to the event because it was important for him. It was important for his job. It was important for his team, his job as a leader, the boss, important for his team. It was important for his financial situation because he's there with customers trying to make more sales. It was important for him to take his wife because his wife was really looking forward to it and dressing up nice and going out and having a big social event. All the different reasons why you would want to go do that over the gym, which to me is totally fine, right? Obviously, it's not that big a deal to go to one very important work event and skip one workout. But remember, John's all or nothing committed to the plan. So John missed and he didn't show up. John felt like missing that workout on a Wednesday night for the work event. He felt like the work event was making an excuse to miss the workout. And that feeling was fueled. It was fueled by other people in the gym, other trainers. Like, hey, you've got this plan. You've got to stick to it. You can't miss. You're making excuses. You could have figured it out. You could have made it work. So I don't entirely blame John for feeling like he was making excuses because everybody was telling him he was making excuses. When in reality, it's not an excuse to be like, oh man, this thing interrupted me from executing the plan. It's just an obvious decision that you should have made and the plan should have been flexible enough to adjust. But that's not how it was happening. So everybody was making him feel guilty because he felt like he was making excuses. There's that feedback loop from hell falling into the failure category, right? So how exactly did John respond? He had texted me later and he said, hey, I'm going to be there Thursday morning and Thursday night. I'm going to do 2 workouts the next day to make up for what I had missed. And I'm almost 100% certain I said word for word, don't worry about it. Have fun at the event. And I'll see you for our regular stuff on Friday. Wasn't even talking about Thursday. Assumed Thursday was out of the question also. Just jumped all the way to I'll see you Friday, I'll see you Saturday. It doesn't really matter. But he was like, no, I'm absolutely going to show up and do 2 days to make up for whatever I had missed. I'm right back on track. No big deal. Whatever. So the next morning, John woke up, sent me a text. Hey, I'm not coming to the gym this morning. We were out late, had a lot to drink. I'm exhausted. Got a lot of work to do. So I'm going to skip the gym. I will definitely be there in the evening. Cool. No big deal. See you in the evening. Missed Wednesday. Now we missed Thursday morning. Get a text late on Thursday. Hey, I'm not going to be at the gym tonight. Stomach's not feeling great. I'm just going to go home and rest, which, of course, right? He went out. He ate a bunch of fried food, drank some things, was out late, things that he wasn't used to doing. So yeah, that might upset your stomach. You might not feel that great. You might need a day of rest afterwards. You're in your 50s, you've been dieting really strict, and you eat a bunch of crap. Yeah, it makes total sense to me. No big deal. So I said, hey, yeah, no big deal. I'll see you on Friday. Got a text Friday afternoon. Hey, I'm really swamped at work. I got all this stuff going on. Can't make it to the gym. I'll be there tomorrow for our appointment. No big deal. See you the next day. So we missed Wednesday night, Thursday morning, Thursday night, Friday. We had now missed 4 in a row. Saturday came around. We were supposed to meet 6 o'clock. It's about 6:30. I sent him a text. Hey, I'm here. You showing up? I didn't get a response for a number of hours. And then finally I got texted a picture back. Just a table, out at breakfast, family, food, drinks. That was it. I just responded, cool, I understand. See you next week. 5 workouts in a row that he had missed, and that was it. He was done. He could not stick to his plan. He felt like a failure for not being able to stick to his plan. And from being all in to having such an interruption spiral, that was it. John had broken what he was trying to do, and there was no coming back. He never fully committed and got back on track again. He derailed him completely. Expectations are the firm belief that something will happen or that someone should accomplish or achieve something. That's what expectations are. What made John's expectations of consistency so unrealistic was a combination that showing up to the gym 6 days per week would happen and that showing up to the gym 6 days per week should happen. He thought it would, he had a belief that it would, and he had a deep belief that it should. John believed that it would happen. He made this plan that he was going to show up 6 days per week, and he thought he was going to execute every single time because he was in control of his schedule. I knew it wouldn't happen. That's not how his lifestyle works. The pressure of all of the other responsibilities eventually won over, and he started doing the things in the after-work hours that he had done before. Sporting events with his kids, social events with his family, work meetings, and sales appointments. All things that are completely justifiable and make sense and a part of his lifestyle. Obviously, he would have to do those things and cater those things. The idea that he would cancel 6 months of that stuff was outlandish, but he believed that he would be able to maintain and hold that. It was just unrealistic to think that you could completely rearrange your life, considering it was unnecessary, but to completely rearrange your life and drop things that were very high priority so far down just so that you can show up to the gym and get a workout. The other part is that he believed it should happen. He believed that he needed to show up 6 days per week to get the outcome. He believed that he needed to bust his ass as hard as he can every single day, and if he did anything less, that it wouldn't work. He refused to consider anything otherwise and refused to try anything else. At his stage, what his goals were, where he was his fitness level-wise, where he was schedule-wise, 2 or 3 days in the gym was more than enough to accomplish every single one of his goals. Every single one of them. He didn't need to do more. Not to mention that more was not going to be good for him based on his current fitness level because he would need that time to recover. So once or twice being more than enough and 6 times being way too much, he just flat out refused to try doing anything less than everything. Thought it would happen and thought it should happen. Part of what was so painful about John was that in the end, John did less by trying to do more. He ended up going from 1 or 2 days per week to 0 days per week over and over and over again, and not losing any weight by that graduation mark. Probably it ended up gaining weight, but we don't know for sure. But certainly didn't lose. So John, whatever his level was all in and ended up in a worse spot than if he had never tried that SMART goal in the first place. And that was one of the most painful things to watch, was how far he set himself back by trying to aim too far forward with wild, unrealistic expectations. And if you've been following me for a long time, if you're getting coaching from me, you know that I always say fitness and finance are the exact same thing. And I make finance analogies for a lot of the things that we do in fitness to help people get a better grasp and a better understanding of what's actually happening. So here's my finance analogy for John's unrealistic expectation of workout consistency. John was trying to pay $50 for something that only cost $10. John was trying to show up every single day when he only needed to show up twice per week to get to his goal. But he was insisting on trying to pay $50 for the $10 thing. And then he got really, really frustrated when he couldn't pay $50 for the $10 thing. And he felt like he would not be able to continue to pay $50 for the $10 thing. So he quit entirely. When if he just started paying $10 for the $10 thing right out of the gate, he would have done it better and longer and got much more compounded value over a much longer period of time, because it was much easier to do, because it fit his budget and it was at the spot and cost that it needed to be. Don't pay $50 for the $10 thing. That's wasteful. If going to the gym 2 days per week is all that it's going to take you to get to your goal, going 5 days per week is not better. For most of us, most of the time, if it's easy and you enjoy going to the gym and you block it off in your schedule and it's what you always do, great. I like to work out every single day because it feels good. But if I'm working out none because it doesn't fit into my schedule, moving it all the way up to 6 days per week is too big of a stretch. It's too far outside of the norm to actually make it make sense. Don't spend $50 for a $10 thing and then get frustrated that you can't continue paying $50 and then quit altogether when it should have only cost you $10 the entire time. Next episode is John's Unrealistic Expectations number 2, consistency with diet. Apparently these episodes are a little bit long. I'll do my best. See you next time.